We bring to you Dallas Mavericks play-by-play boys. Chuck Cooperstein, good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, kids. How are you?
Well, we're doing excellent, and I know there's a lot to get to about the game against the Rockets. I do need to know, I felt fairly surprised when all the Cuban news started to come out. Were you also surprised?
You think?
Yeah.
Just a little. But this is the man who basically tells his staff that on draft night that if our draft choice leaks out to Woj or Shams or any of those people before we make the pick, that that person will no longer be employed. So he knows how to keep a secret. And you know through the years that when the Mavericks have made trades, most of the time, maybe except for the Jason Kidd trade back in 2008, those trades come out of nowhere. He does a really good job of keeping things close to the vest. And clearly he kept the biggest move of all close to the vest.
Are you intrigued by the potential of what this move could mean?
I don't know if intrigued is the word. I'm curious.
Okay.
I guess I'm just curious because I really don't know what it means. I mean, other than the fact that, it's unusual in the sense that if you're giving up a majority share, that usually means you're giving up control of everything, right? But here, apparently, Mark's been able to, have his cake and eat it too, where he's getting some money, and he's also getting still to do the thing that he really loves doing, which is being around the NBA and being around his team and trying to make his team better.
Does that mitigate any of your potential feelings of sadness then? Because like you said, usually that does mean see on down the road, but it won't in this case.
It's it doesn't appear as if he's going anywhere, right? It appears he's still going to do what he's done. So, for all of the hubbub and understandable hubbub over the last, 18 hours or so, really in the end, how much will really have changed? I don't know the answer to that.
The after last night, there was the moment with our friend Tim McMahon and Jason Kidd. Do you have a top 3 positive stories for the Mavs right now?
Yeah, Luka.
Yeah,
Kyrie, and the fact that they're 11-6, which I don't think a lot of people thought they'd be right now. So there you go, 3 big stories.
Chuck, I'm going to bring up another one for you, and Dereck Lively has been tremendous, and obviously he had to miss the game against the Clippers last night. He had another solid game. Are you surprised on how well he's played at 19 years old as a starting center in the NBA?
Stunned. I think they're stunned. I don't think no one was calling this shot on draft night. They were hoping that ultimately, somewhere down the road, that they had found an answer to a long-standing problem. But the fact that Lively, from the moment he got to Summer League, each game he got better, and then apparently made that huge jump between the end of Summer League and when the guys started coming back after Labor Day, to where he could hang with the big boys and be a difference maker. I think it's remarkable. It's a fantastic story. It's a major positive development for the Mavericks, who I think everybody felt like on draft night did really, really well. But they all thought that Omax Prosper was going to be the guy that would be able to be slipped in to the regular rotation, having been farther along in his time, 3 years in college, 1 at Clemson, 2 at Marquette. But it didn't work out that way. And frankly, given the need to protect the rim, that it's pretty important that Lively's been able to do what he's done. Now, he had a rough go of it last night with Alperen Şengün, and it makes you understand too. Here's Şengün in his 3rd year, and he's been pretty good his first 2 years, and he's got that creative European game to him. But it just makes you wonder what Lively will be like 2 years from now when he really understands everything that's going on around him in the NBA.
I love what you're saying, Chuck, about Şengün. I kind of mentioned him yesterday before the game on how much he's improved and what he's doing. And I look at the Western Conference, Chuck, and I look at Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren and Şengün, and then you still have Jokic and Anthony Davis and Sabonis. The Western Conference is kind of loaded with big guys now, so that is something that Lively is going to help out with, but the Mavs probably need to look into, hey, we need to also help him, because I'm throwing out my opinion here is 82 games is a lot for a 19-year-old in a competitive situation where you're trying to not only make the playoffs but make playoff noise.
I'd agree with that. I think that's a fair statement to make. And I think that, we're just about to enter trade season. Really after December 15th, when a lot of the summer deals become guaranteed, that's when teams really start to get serious about it. But most of the time that action doesn't take place until a lot closer to the deadline and teams get a little more desperate. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Mavericks look to supplement Lively with either another center, because I don't know, if Rashawn Holmes or Dwight Powell, or even when Maxi Kleber returns, if they're long-term answers. I don't know the answer to that. Or just a more bruising power forward sort that can a bigger version of Grant Williams, if you will. Okay, Jeff Green. Right? Jeff Green looks great for the Rockets. I mean, he's playing fantastic. He's 36 years old. He's still, giving them really, really good minutes. Jeff Green would look really good with Mavericks right now. That type of player, I would think, would be the type of player that they'd be interested in trying to get their hands on somewhere around the deadline.
Because you don't necessarily want to look at an offensive-minded player who can stack up rebounds but is maybe not great defensively like Vooch, is my interpretation of the situation.
And I think that's fair, too. Their defense is not good enough right now, although their defense has shown signs of life. The game against the Lakers, they played really well for 3 quarters defensively in that game, played really well defensively against the Clippers. I mean, they just had a horrific offensive game the Clippers were asking to get beat Saturday night, and the Mavericks just weren't good enough to win that game because they couldn't make a shot. And then, last night, I know the Rockets wound up shooting 50% for the game, but I thought the Mavericks defense was actually, pretty good for a lot of the game. And I think they're making some strides in that area. I think it's been probably their best week of the season when it comes to that. And hopefully that is something that will continue.
All right, Chuck, so this is for my 9th grader, Jake, who his favorite player on the Mavs right now is Jaden Hardy. And he asked me, Dad, why doesn't Jaden Hardy play more? And so now I'm going to play Chuck Cooperstein's answer to my boy Jake on
pressure.
I do think it's tough for him to get minutes with Kyrie and Luka when they're both healthy. So I'd love for you to tell Jake right now how Jaden Hardy can get more minutes, or if he is going to get more minutes as the season progresses.
It's hard for Jaden Hardy to get minutes when Luka and Kyrie are playing as many minutes as they're playing. I was hoping for the laugh there because I was trying to say exactly what you said. I'm very disappointed.
You said real facts.
I totally failed.
Chuck, that is correct. That's what I pretty much told him. I was like, maybe Chuck has a different answer. Maybe he sees Jaden playing later in the year. I don't know. I think it's tough for him to get on the court right now.
It's tough for him to get on the court, and when he does get on the court, he's pressing.
Yeah.
He's trying, he's forcing so much on offense, trying to score, trying to be that automatic bucket, that he was late last year. But it's hard. Look, they also have Seth Curry. They can't get Seth Curry on the floor.
Yeah.
Because the Dante Exum, does more, frankly, of what they need in the non-Luka Kyrie minutes because he can handle it, he can pass it, he really pushes it hard, and he's better defensively. And on one hand, it's tough for a second-year guy that we saw last year make some pretty significant strides as the year went on. But at the end, if you look at the number of wings they have, at that particular size, I mean, there's real competition there for minutes. And again, when you have guys like Luka and Kyrie who are going to play, 36 to 38 minutes a game, where are the other minutes coming from?
Well, and I'm curious then, different positions, different skill sets, but sometimes we lump all young players together, even though they're also in different years. What have you thought about the play of Josh Green thus far? Because obviously, with the contract and everything, they seem to have a good amount of faith in him.
It's been very inconsistent.
Yep.
You look at the game like the Laker game, and you're saying, yep, that's the guy. That's the guy, we know he can be. But that game comes right now about once every 4 games. But I do think Jason Kidd made a pretty good point last night when he was talking with the media in the pregame, when he was saying, with Josh, it's not always about points. With him, it's about him guarding, and it's about him, providing energy, winning 50-50 balls, and those types of things. When he has not played well this year, he's lost some of those battles that last year, like he never lost. He never lost a contested ball that was out on the floor. It was almost uncanny how easily he would win those. But that hasn't happened for him this year. And the fact that shots haven't gone in, I think he's pressing. I mean, he's definitely pressing, but they definitely need him. They need his size, and they need his athleticism, and they need his energy because they want to play fast, and they want to get the ball up the floor. And they've shown they can do that, and especially when you have a guy like Josh filling the lanes the way he can, it's really important for him to be able to contribute to this team, in those non-box score ways.
Chuck, is Minnesota this good?
Well, Mike, did you watch the first quarter plus of the 2 games in Abu Dhabi when the regulars were playing? When the Mavericks and Minnesota were playing? I
don't believe. I did watch one of them because Corey was making fun of me for critiquing it so much.
Yeah, I was kind of getting after him a little bit.
Yes, it was early, but yes, Minnesota was totally dominant against the Mavericks in those minutes when the real players were playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they've got they're top heavy now. It's like a lot of teams are, but. Gobert looks like he's back to being Gobert, which means he's an absolute terror defensively. And they've got fabulous length on the wings, to where they can pretty much guard anyone. Jaden McDaniels is a sensational defender. Now, he's hurt, so that's going to hurt them for a while. But they needed somebody who could really steady the ship. And Mike Conley is the perfect point guard for them. And I think Chris Finch is a really creative offensive coach, and he does have a bucket getter in Edwards. I really like their team a lot. And, how that translates to April and May, I don't know the answer to that right now. But the fact that they're guarding the way they're guarding is something that should be of great concern to everybody in the Western Conference.
With the team playing so much better, do you think this is going to be the season in which Anthony Edwards, I mean, he's a number 1 pick. Everybody knows who he is, but truly breaks through to that next level of NBA player?
I don't know. He clearly is a go-to guy for them late in the game, but he's still not a particularly efficient shooter, not a great 3-point shooter, but he plays with an incredible amount of confidence. Almost irrational confidence for someone that's not Seth Curry, right? Or for that matter, even Steph Curry, or for that matter, even Luka or somebody like that. But he's really good, and I do think they take a page from him. But is he? I mean, you look at the number of guards in this league, and there are only 6 guards that could be named to the All NBA teams. Is he one of the top 6 players? One of the top 6 guards in the league? I don't know the answer to that, because there are a lot of guards out there right now.
So last night, Dirk was on the television broadcast, Coop, and I know obviously you're on the radio broadcast, so you're not hearing him. But when Luka made the hook shot, he says that Luka can make so many, he called them garbage shots. He's so good at making those shots that really you're like, come on, did you really make that? What has been this year your favorite Luka garbage shot?
Oh, the one against Brooklyn.
That crazy
one against Brooklyn. That crazy 3-pointer against the clock with nowhere to go.
Off the glass.
Off the glass and whatever. I mean, without question, and especially because it happened when it happened. So late in the game, it basically put the game away. But this one was pretty good, and off of a block shot, no less, and didn't even. And I don't think he realized that. That he did still have time on the clock. He didn't have to rush that shot, and yet He did it, but it's what he does. And, people can laugh at this all the time, but he really does practice all this nonsense. And it looks like nonsense until it's not nonsense, until it actually matters. And somehow the ball goes in the basket.
I know that you get to call a lot of games, and obviously you're doing Maverick games, so you get to call the Mavericks all the time, but is he the most fun guy to call radio broadcast, like crazy shots from? Is there a visiting player that you're just surprises me all the time with some of the crazy stuff he does?
I love Curry. I love watching Curry, and just love watching how he gets his shots, how he's in perpetual motion, and where you think you have him guarded and you don't have him guarded. Now, I don't know that he is as creative as Luka. If they're playing horse and we're talking about different trick shots and whatever, I think Luka would beat him. But, just the fact that the moment Curry crosses the midcourt line, there is just abject fear that he's going to fire it and make it. And you're just left with, how did he do that? And basically ever since he's been in the league, but especially since, this run for the Warriors really started back in 2015, to me, he's the most fun. And especially when the games are at Golden State, because their crowd just goes completely nuts every time he touches the ball. And the crazier shot he makes, the deeper one that he makes, the louder they get. And it just makes for an incredible atmosphere and just an incredible vibe when you're doing the game.
This is unrelated to any of the news of yesterday, but do you think it'd be really convenient if you could go to a place in the Metroplex where you could watch a basketball game live and in person and also gamble? Do you think that would be a neat thing to have?
Well, I'm not a gambler. I could not care less.
Mm-hmm.
The gambling means absolutely nothing to me, never has, regardless of sport. Because you know what? They don't give Lombardi trophies or Larry O'Brien trophies for your record against the spread. Doesn't matter.
That's a good point.
It really just doesn't matter. So all of this that's gone on, over the last couple of years, it means nothing to me. I mean, I could not care less if the Cowboys, if they're favored by 11, if they win by 11, or they win by 30, or they win by 1. Doesn't matter to me. They won, because in the end, that's all that counts.
Well, Coop, I know this is a little bit off topic. I know how big of a college football fan you are. Who is going to be in the Final Four after these conference games are over?
Georgia, Michigan, Oregon. I think Oregon's going to beat Washington, and I think Texas will get in as a result of that. Because I think Florida State's going to lose, and I think that justice is going to prevail here for the Big 12 in a way that it did not prevail for either TCU or Baylor back in 2014. But right now, those are the 4 best teams in the country. And if this is about, in their lingo, the best teams in the country, those are the 4 best teams in the country right now.
If they went ahead and put Ohio State back in there, would you just kind of roll your eyes like I would?
Of course. I mean, it happened for Ohio State. It happened for Alabama. It happened for Nebraska back in the day. At the very least, you need to be playing for your conference championship. At the very least, however your conference defines winning a conference championship. If they didn't have a regular season, if they didn't have a conference championship game, and Ohio State was 11-1, well, maybe we can revisit that now. But the fact is that they do have a championship game, and they're not in it, and they're not a part of it. So no, they're out. They're absolutely out.
All right. Excellent insight right there. You got a lot of listeners that definitely hope you're right about that. Appreciate your insight on all things sport today.
Thanks for having me, boys. Take care.